before we end this meeting, we will share a QR code for a citywide survey. The results of the survey will be presented to the City Council during an update tentatively in July. So with that context, I will transition to the background and purpose of this citywide effort, what led us here, and what are we really aiming to achieve. So this study, it has been a City Council priority, and the main aim is to better understand the health of our local economy and how we can strengthen it moving forward. The city has partnered with Cosmon companies to analyze market conditions, trends, and opportunities. The goal is to help guide future economic development strategies, and this presentation tonight includes early update and the work that is still in progress. So let's look at some of the important aspects of this study so you all understand what exactly this study is going to undertake. The first task is to understand current real estate and economic conditions. What we are really looking at is what kind of shops and services are here in Foster City and what is working and what is not working. What is missing? What is that our community needs and cannot find within the city? We're also evaluating our shopping centers, which one are doing well and what could be further improved. How city can support our local businesses and bring in the kind of businesses that our community wants. Your input, along with the analysis by Cosmon, will help the City Council with some of the key decisions regarding business attraction and future strategies. So Cosmon, in their task, they have multiple tasks to be completed as part of this study. And on April 20th, Cosmon presented their first update to City Council, and this included an assessment of population and psychographics, real estate market assessment, and health of our existing shopping areas. So what does this mean, and why are we doing this assessment? So the population and psychographic analysis basically tells us who lives and works in Foster City and how do they spend. The real estate economic market assessment basically includes the current market, if the current market is meeting the demand of Foster City community. For health and shopping centers, we are looking at the health of our centers in general. Tonight's presentation just provides an overview of the work that has been done by Cosmon so far. If you want more detailed version, please visit our webpage, engagefostercity.org/real estate market analysis. We have this 85-page analysis that Cosmon presented to City Council on April 20th. So let's start with a quick snapshot of Foster City in terms of demographics. As I noted, that one of the first tasks that Cosmon completed was demographics and psychographics. And this information is critical as it helps us understand the demand profile, demand for consumer goods, restaurants, and other services. What you're really seeing on the screen here is just a highlight. As you can see, Foster City is a strong, high-income, highly educated community with great amenities, and this high-level education then translates into higher income levels. I remember when Ken Hira, the president for Cosmon Companies, was presenting to the City Council, he noted that in his 40 years of experience, it is rare to see a community where 3/4 of its population has a bachelor degrees. And of course, he said, something that we all should be very proud of, and I'm sure we all are. So Foster City, as we all are aware, has a diverse and multicultural population with over 50% of residents identifying as Asian, which is very well reflected in the types of restaurant that we see in Foster City. At the same time, the Foster City also has a strong real estate market sector that supports approximately 19,000 jobs attributed to major employers like Gilead, Visa, Zoox. So remember this number of 19,000 because we are going to talk about this number in another slide. So as through this process, I definitely learned some new interesting terminologies, and this terminology is called tapestry demographics. So this is what Cosmon included in their analysis. This helps us basically understand not just who lives here. Yes, we looked into demographics, but it helps us understand how they live and how they spend. In Foster City, the majority of households falls into three categories. And again, as you can see, these are very unique names. One of the categories is called top tier. And this basically belongs to couples with high net worth. These are older married couples with advanced professional degrees. They shop at upscale, exclusive retailers and fine dining restaurants. Then the other category is urban chic, which is almost 25% of our Foster City population. These are younger married couples with children, again, highly educated, but 50% live in multifamily condos, townhomes, etc. They frequent health clubs and shop at organic food stores. The other category is known as laptops and lattes, which constitute about 20% of our population. These are unmarried young professionals who live in rental units and shop online extensively. They seek entertainment options and enjoy fine dining and fashion. San Mateo and Redwood City also have similar segments, plus a high concentration of uptown lights, another category. And these uptown lights are tech-savvy, younger couples who work primarily as service professionals and earn median incomes and live in multifamily housing. They dine out frequently and order meals for home delivery. So again, this is what the population is further being categorized into. So building on the previous slide where we talked about that how Foster City has about 19,000 jobs, Cosmont, a company, also looked into where those 19,000 workers are coming from. So what you see on these slides, that these workers are coming from San Francisco, San Mateo, San Jose, Fremont, and Redwood City. And interestingly enough, that the 17,000 residents who leave the city for work also are traveling to the same places for work. Overall, what you really see on this slide is that we still have a net flow of workers. What does this mean? That in other words, we have more daytime population as compared to our own residents. Another part of this analysis informed us that approximately 1,500 residents live and work in Foster City. So Cosmont utilized a tool known as Placer AI to analyze resident and visitor spending travel patterns. What you see, it's again a very high-level visitation summary. And what we really see is that locations like Costco and Metro Center are generating highest number of visits. Again, I'm sure that's not surprising to everyone. And Costco and Metro Center get an annual visitation close to 2.5 million to 3 millions annually. Again, we see strong performance from our grocery anchored centers like Safeway in Metro Center, 99 Ranch in Marlin Cove. Other locations like Edgewater and Leo J. Ryan also show steady visitation. So moving on, of course, not all the needs of our residents are, within Foster City. For some of their needs, they do have to travel outside Foster City. And on this screen, what you see is top places outside Foster City. So 90% of Foster City residents shopped at Bridgepoint Shopping Center in San Mateo, an average of 7 times last year. And 1/3 of residents shopped at Saramonte Center in Daly City, an average of 9 times. Of course, it's not surprising. Why do we see these numbers? Because people are going to places like Target, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, and so on. What is interesting of this analysis is that many of these trips are really short trips, like 10 to 20 minutes away. What this means is that these are choices, not limitations, and it also helps us understand where our leakages are in terms of our retail and shopping. So talking about retail leakage, Cosman also analyzed our trade area, which is usually a 3-mile radius, and looked at our leakage data. The column that you see towards right indicates leakage, and most of the categories identified is probably leakage to internet, like for categories like sporting goods, electronics. But there's also an opportunity for Foster City to capture leakage in terms of health and personal stores and restaurants. So Cosmond also conducted analysis of our shopping centers, and they looked into our sales tax data. So what you're seeing here is that Foster Square Retail has seen most growth due to its, of course, it was built in 2020, but again, we were hit by pandemic, so they had a slow start after completion in terms of leasing. So of course, after that, they have seen a growth. Metro Center has showed some solid growth in its taxable sales, up to 42%. Fast food at Triton, which comprises of the area which has McDonald's, Taco Bell, they show extremely high sales, which is typically associated with fast food and drive-through establishment. And of course, it is not surprising because of our day population and how employees always look for a quick bite during lunchtime. The other centers in Foster City have shown minimal growth over the period. So as part of this study, Cosmond also looked into various sectors in Foster City. Let's look into our office sector first, which was definitely hit hard by pandemic. And at one point of time, our vacancies were really, really high. But it was, again, even if the vacancy was high, it was much lower than our neighboring cities. Our industrial R&D sector is one of the strongest. And of course, the leasing has been strong, and we have a very low vacancy when it comes to our R&D sector. Cosmond also studied the hospitality market trade area, which is our hotel market, and saw a major decline during pandemic. Foster City does not have an oversupply, and although we have not fully, the hotel market has not fully recovered from pandemic, Foster City has seen that we are at the pre-pandemic performance levels in terms of revenue. Talking about a retail market, we do have limited square footage for our retail. It is about 600,000 square feet. And of course, Costco is one of the major regional draw. Yes, we all know that city lacks a defined downtown, and that is also contributed that when Foster City's master plan was developed, it did not include a dedicated downtown, but it was more of a neighborhood shopping centers. In terms of our multifamily market conditions, these are strong, and currently the vacancy rate is pretty low. It's about 2% vacancy rate. So this was all about Foster City data, looking into key trends. Before we move further, it's important to take a step back and look at some broader trends that are shaping real estate and economic development, not in just Foster City, but this is nationally and also across the Bay Area. Just these are highlights. So in terms of housing is seen as an economic driver, and there is a strong connection between housing and economic vitality in terms of retail. It is just no longer about your traditional storefronts, and there is a shift towards more experience-based retail places where people can dine together and spend time. There is also more emphasis on mixed-use environments. As you have seen in recent times, Pilgrim Triton area, we saw this mixed-use environment that combine housing, retail, and other uses to create more active and vibrant areas. Of course, because of pandemic, telework continues to reshape office demand with more flexibility around hybrid work. The need for traditional office, again, has evolved after pandemic, and this has, of course, during pandemic, this led to higher vacancies in some areas, but it also creates opportunities for us to rethink how these spaces can be used, including potential conversion or repositioning of vacant office spaces. Looking at industrial and distribution uses that are increasingly becoming important with the growth of e-commerce and online shopping, there is strong demand for logistics, last mile delivery, and flexible spaces that can accommodate a mix of uses. So when we look at Foster City and these trends, they really help frame the conversation, how we think about housing, how we activate our retail areas, and how we respond to changes in office demand, and where there may be opportunities in emerging sectors. So one key takeaway is that housing isn't just about housing. It supports local businesses, it generates revenues, and brings activity to commercial areas. We're also seeing that how people use space with hybrid work patterns. Housing is no longer where people just live, but it's also where people work and spend more of their time. This increases the importance of having nearby amenities and services. At the same time, more online shopping means physical retail stores need to evolve, focus on experience, convenience, and provide services that cannot be replaced online. So now that we have all this understanding, I think this is going to help us in this study better. And as we all look into, look into an action plan for Foster City. So now that Cosmont has completed some of their initial data, what is next? They are looking into opportunity sites. We did get some direction from City Council on April 20th when Cosmont presented their first update, and this was also the time we received feedback on the study, on the sites that City Council would like us to look into further. And of course, our survey is out. I don't know how many of you are aware that we have this citywide survey that is open until May 22nd. Once this survey is closed, we are going to gather information, feedback that we receive from all of you. We are also conducting a focus group meetings with various stakeholders. This includes commercial property owners, real estate brokers. We have met with many of them, and we are gathering their feedback in terms of how city can support them. And once we have all this information, Cosmont's next update, tentatively in July, they will be presenting the feedback of the two community meetings, the focus group meetings, and a survey to City Council, along with their analysis of some of the opportunity sites. From there, the final step for the consultant will be translating all these findings, feedbacks into a clear action plan that will guide future economic development in Foster City. So again, if you're not aware, we have a dedicated web page for this specific topic. It's engagefostercity.org, real estate economic market analysis. If you have any comments, even after this meeting, throughout the course of this study, please do not hesitate to email us at economicdevelopment@fostercity.org. You have the ability to register to get involved. This way, you will be notified of any upcoming meetings. And again, please, after this meeting, please take time to help us with a citywide survey. I will have the QR code on the screen for all of you so that you can take a note of it. I'm going to stop sharing the screen and we will open up for Q&A. So actually just let me quickly share my screen one more time so that it tells you how to participate during this Q&A. You can use the raise hands feature to join the discussion. Once you raise your hands, we will promote you as a panelist and you will have the ability to ask your question or share your feedback. When you're called on, please state your name, keep your questions and comments concise, and please stay on topic. This is all about getting feedback on this topic. Again, if some of you are hesitant to speak, please do not hesitate to send us your question through the chat. I will say your question out loud without taking in your name, and Thomas and I will try to answer or address your question. So let me stop sharing. I already do see a question, and let me read that first. Is there a link to Cosmon presentation to City Council? Yes, we do have the presentation on our Engage website, and I'm happy to share it on to the screen so you all can see it. So let me share my screen. So this is the website, engagefostercity.org at Real Estate Economic Market Analysis. And under the key documents, this is the analysis that Cosmon presented to City Council on April 20th. It's about 80 some pages worth of data. Okay. I do see a comment and I can read that. But again, if you want to speak on this topic, please do not hesitate, but I'm more than happy to read your comments. One of the comment is that Foster City is a waterfront community that is unique to the peninsula and overall Bay Area. At any point, will Cosmon be able to provide the public with their recommendations on how the lagoon system can contribute to the real estate economic market viability and overall economic development for Foster City? Example, the lagoon system's relationship and impact on residential property values, commercial and public real estate, recreation, and relationship with our major employers like Gilead, Visa, Zoox, etc. Thomas, do you want to answer that?
Yes, thank you. We definitely view the lagoon system as an important component of our analysis. We think it is a probably underutilized asset that the community has had for a long time, and we want to give you up. We want to give recommendations to improve that, improve the relationship of the community with the lagoon system.
Okay, I'll take the next question. What are the sites potentially being considered for redevelopment? And is there thought being thrown to develop a downtown?
Do you want me to talk about that?
So I think I can take that, and Thomas, feel free to add to this. In terms of sites being potentially considered for redevelopment, I don't think so. We have an answer to that. What really Cosmont is looking at, that they have been giving with some opportunity sites, and right now they're at still a very initial stages of collecting data. I know they reached out to staff to ask about general plan designation, zoning. So they are still at that early stages of that analysis. And I don't think so. You have you are at a point where you can say, hey, this is for redevelopment or repurposing, right, Thomas?
Right. We are, I mean, we are looking at sites that are suitable for new development. I wouldn't necessarily call it redevelopment. Obviously, most of the existing office space, commercial space is, it's privately owned, and you know, those are private decisions that those property owners have to make. We're happy to make suggestions as part of the study to indicate where we think opportunities are for different types of commercial and recreational uses.
Okay. And the next part of the question, Thomas, is, and is there a thought being thrown to develop a downtown?
Yes, that's definitely one of our directives that we receive from the council, is to looking at these opportunities areas, which ones have the best potential to create a downtown environment. It's not going to be, it's not going to be the conventional downtown per se, given, you don't have that small street network that many cities have. But what we're envisioning is more an increased public gathering space with more commercial activity.
Okay. So the next question is there a breakdown of where residents work and not just top employers in Foster City?
We don't have the ability to look at where individual people work. The data, the Placer AI data that Sophia mentioned, will tell us generally where, X percentage of the people will go to work in San Francisco or San Jose, or et cetera. But as to where they work, we don't have we don't have that type of information available. Um, so that's about all for that.
Okay. And is there somewhere that we can get that data or no?
No, that is too that is too micro type data that is not available.
Okay. So the next question is, does the golf course, from a real estate perspective, pay a rent to the city that is in line with other muni-owned courses? And does Cosmont have any insight into experience that a muni-owned land like that can be put to a more intense, family-friendly, and profitable for the city use?
Okay. We haven't been able to, we haven't compared what the rent that the golf organization pays to the city. My understanding is it's several $100,000 a year. As to how much other golf courses pay, there are, every course is obviously a unique situation. This is a 9-hole short with a driving range. Uh, but we definitely want to look at creating more opportunities within that 80 acres of land that the golf course has, in terms of trying to create some additional what we might call restaurant entertainment uses within that parcel. And we've also are taking a look at the land that's in front of the golf course between Third Avenue and the golf courses. Is there some way to use that to kind of expand the opportunity? But we understand that the golf course is a very popular uh, facility. Maybe not as a high percentage of the total population, but when Sophia showed you the graphic that talked about the top 10 places visited in Foster City, the golf course was one of those. So there are, and I appreciate people that don't play golf. It's like, well, what? It's hard to imagine, but I know that the two times that I've been to the city, I've gone to the golf course in the evening, and the parking lot is full. So,
And again, you're still at the early stages of doing that analysis, right, Thomas?
Right, we're gonna reach out to the operator and talk about what kind of investments could be made to improve maybe improve dining and other amenities there for the community.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. So, Thomas, the next question is Foster City real estate seems to command slower growth within last 5 years compared to neighboring San Mateo west of 101. Have any studies been done as to potential drivers, be it airplane noise, shopping, diversity, etc.?
We haven't analyzed why the growth maybe is a little bit slower. I think one of the a prime reason that I would suspect is that you have so little developable land now that there's just not room to add more development. I mean, I know Gilead is definitely expanding. They're acquiring some of the light industrial land around on the
Oh,
north side of the 92. But it's I think that's the main reason.
that we do not have much developable or vacant land. Okay, thank you.
Right.
So, the next question is are you able to share specific neighborhoods that are experiencing the highest appreciation and which are stagnating for residential and commercial real estate?
We have not looked at the appreciation rate. I'm not sure if you're talking about residential home values or what there. And obviously, with respect to the commercial side of it, I mean, this is a commercial study. This is the main focus. So we're not looking at home values per se by neighborhood. So I can't speak to that. But clearly, the commercial area that is not generating the most activity would be in the Edgewater area. That shopping center has had the most difficulty the last 5 years in terms of growth in sales.
Okay, we did get one comment. I think Thomas, it speaks correctly. It says, "Please note to the audience that developable land is different than vacant land." And yes, that's correct.
Right. Yes, given that we've heard from many of the people in our outreach about how the city is basically on 6 inches above sea level, and that being able to build is much more difficult here than it is in other areas. So that probably is another factor of the cost to have to build the pilings to support the larger buildings is another factor making redevelopment more challenging.
Okay. And again, to all those who are attending, please do not hesitate to raise your hand. We will promote you as a panelist and you have the ability to ask questions. You don't only have to write it in the chat. Please feel free to share your comments or feedback. Okay, Rob, can you?
Got a lot of shy
Okay.
people.
Okay.
There you go. Eric's allowed to talk now.
Hi, this is Eric Corpus. Thank you, Sophia, for this presentation and allowing the public to participate and provide input. And thank you for voicing my question that I provided on the chat that was related to how the lagoon system can contribute to the real estate economic market viability and overall economic development for Foster City. I have an additional question for Thomas. Edgewater Place Shopping Center, where Osaka Marketplace is located, formerly Lucky's, is the only commercial property on the waterfront, a very important feature of Foster City. Do you have adequate access with commercial property landlords, especially with Brothers International, who is the owner of Edgewater Place, so that you can adequately provide your recommendations to the city?
They were kind enough to sit down with me for a
Focus group.
half hour, 45-minute session.
Wonderful.
to give give me information about what's going on and what some of the challenges are and opportunities. So they've been very cooperative.
And the same with other commercial landlords throughout the city?
We were able to talk with the Metro Center property manager. He was also very helpful. I've not been able to get anybody from Foster Square yet, or Beach Park Plaza, or Marlin Cove, but Marlin Cove is is a pretty successful center with respect to occupancy. So I'm not really concerned about that one, but so we've only been able to get the Edgewater and Metro Center property managers to talk with us.
Well, that's good to know that they're engaging. So thank you.
And we are making
Sure.
our rounds. We're really trying to reach out to all the property owners, our property managers, just so that we can get their feedback and how we can support them, or what are the challenges that they're seeing. So we are definitely making our rounds.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thomas, the next question is, what is the potential timeline for delivery of conclusions from the study, and when new development activity would be done? So I can take that, Thomas. Regarding the potential timeline, July timeframe is when we are going to go to City Council with our second update. Sorry. With our second update, which will comprises of opportunity sites and the community feedback received so far. Following that, we are looking for further feedback or direction from City Council. So the delivery of the final action plan would be somewhere around August, September, I guess. The date is not final yet, but that's our timeline. In terms of when the new development activity would be done, so this is going to be an action plan that is basically going to guide our economic strategies. This study is not going to result into a construction activity per se, but definitely it will help us guide our future development, or what are some of the strategies that city should be looking into.
Right. I would just add to that, Sophia, that obviously most of the opportunity sites, or many of the opportunity sites, are privately owned, and therefore, the city has no control over when they will decide to redevelop or build. For those sites where the city has more direct control, we're basically going to outline a kind of an action plan to identify what additional analysis needs to be done. For example, one of the sites is a 20-acre area next to Sea Cloud Park, and but you have to really understand the soil conditions to know what's going to be involved there. So there will be some interim steps before actual construction can happen. And to be brutally honest, it'll be a couple of years before any significant development would happen.
So Thomas, the next question is, are there any studies planned for residential real estate appreciation opportunities as well?
Well, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, that was not part of that
part of our scope. No,
that is not part of the scope. But if it is something that we get direction from council, or it's something that is that the community's feedback and they really want us to look into that, that is something that we might. But so far, that is not part of our the analysis that Cosmont is working on. So the next question is, residents have previously raised interest in a new high school. Is that being explored in this study as well? So thank you for that question. I think we did hear from a couple of our community members regarding new high school, and it was something that was also discussed during the city council meeting on April 20th. And I think maybe Cosmont might touch upon this topic in their analysis.
Right. We will provide some insights as to how much land is needed for typical high schools. We may suggest some alternative concepts to consideration, for example, charter schools. Uh, but it's clearly a very challenging thing because of the land requirements.
Okay. Okay, so another question, Thomas, is has the Arch site been planned for new development? So again, I think our site is one of our opportunity sites. Staff does keep getting queries on the property, but right now at least we do not have any application. But I would say that it is one of our opportunity sites.
And I would say it's probably close to the best opportunity site.
Anyone have any further questions? And even beyond questions, if you have any comments or feedback, please, this is your chance. We're going to add all these comments and feedback when we present it to City Council. So please feel free to share your comments via chat or if you want to speak. So next question is, Thomas, has the city or the consultant approached the property owner of the old proposed marina site? No, this one
We
we have
didn't
not.
approach them, but they approached us.
Oh, they did? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they contacted me either earlier this week or late last week. I'm not sure. So we're definitely aware of that land that's on the other side of the seawall.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any further questions or comments? Meanwhile, yes, we do have one more. Aside from the lagoon, are there any other underutilized assets that Foster City can drive additional value?
Well, I guess one could say that the Bay area itself, is an asset that would drive value. So to the extent that we can put commercial development to provide a bay view, maybe on some of the available parcels, as well as within the golf course area itself. So that is definitely a major consideration.
So Thomas, the next question is, do we envision something similar to Bay Meadows, Hillsdale Mall's transformative development for Bay Meadows in the future? Sorry, I'm not sure if I got I'm understanding it.
It says here, do we envision something similar to Hillsdale's Mall development plan?
Or,
I think that's
sorry, for Foster City in the future.
right. We do not think that is going to be possible. There, unless you annex, unless you can annex Bridgepoint from San Mateo, there's no foreseeable site that could accommodate that type of a development.
But again, Thomas, you're still doing your analysis, right?
Right. But
You don't know what those opportunities right now look like. And as you do more analysis, there might be something that you can say, hey, this is a great potential.
oh yeah, no, I didn't mean to say that we wouldn't be able to identify potential opportunities, but when you talk about a mall, that's a 50-acre plus property.
How does Foster City's outlook compare to other peninsula cities? Not sure if Thomas has been involved in other, have Cosmont been involved with economic city studies close by, like in Peninsula or?
We've done work with several cities in the Santa Cruz area, Santa Cruz, Capitola. We've done work with Pacifica. We've done work with Sausalito and San Rafael, and as well as Daly City over just, I would say, the last 5 or 6 years. So we're not we're not entirely familiar with the San Francisco Peninsula side of it. It's obviously it's an incredibly dynamic market that has seen major shifts in the concentration from biotech now shifting over to AI and data center and infotech type uses. But I think the Foster City has the, the strength of Gilead and its long-term opportunities, are a major benefit to the city of Foster that other towns don't necessarily have.
And Thomas, I know the question regarding if you have been involved in the economic studies close by, you do have a employee of Cosmont who lives in Foster City, right? And so far he has been like really involved and providing you with all this information too.
Right.
And did you answer the question regarding how does Foster City's outlook compare to other peninsula cities?
I would say that there's nothing there's nothing to indicate that it's any worse than or I don't want to say, that's not the right word. I would say it's as good as outlook as any of the other communities on the peninsula.
And I think when you did your the detailed analysis, that's where you have looked into the comparison of Foster City with the other cities, right? I remember you have done in terms of jobs and housing balance. You looked into various other parameters, and you have compared it with other cities in Peninsula.
Right, but again, as to those are kind of dry statistics per se, and the fact that one city has higher population growth or higher industrial development doesn't necessarily mean that they're better off than you are.
Yeah. No, but
there's different factors involved here. So
yeah, but I remember you also had comparison for home value history, like those kind of comparisons.
I think we looked at it at county level. We didn't go individual cities to say how San Mateo home values or Redwood City or et cetera. We didn't dive down into that level.
Okay, but again, if any one of you are interested in looking into that in-depth analysis, that is on that web page that I shared with you earlier on. Okay. So the next question is Foster City seeing a diversification of employers? There seems to be a large reliance on biotech, which is going through a downturn currently. So I can, if Of course, I can take that, and Thomas, maybe you can add to it. Definitely, our R&D sector, as I discussed in one of the slides, that it's pretty strong in Foster City, and yes, we are adding new employers, but I would say in terms of diversification, we have added new employers, but we really, at least I haven't I haven't done a deep dive in terms of like different categories. Thomas, do you want to add to that?
I would just comment about, the comment about biotech in a downturn. I think maybe the way I would paraphrase that would be that biotech was considered a super boom industry as during COVID and thereafter, and you saw city after city rezoning office parks for biotech use, to the point that there are literally tens of millions of square feet of vacant biotech space in the Bay Area. So clearly, from a regional basis, the tech is not as strong as it was. But again, your biotech is concentrated within one company that has its own substantial pipeline of products that they're working on that are very very important. So it's I think it's everything that we've seen would indicate that Gilead is still in a growth mode.
Okay, thank you for that, Thomas. Okay, someone sharing this comment. Please do more of these virtual sessions in the future. It is highly appreciated. Thank you for that comment. Any further questions or comments? And what I'm going to do for a few minutes, I'm going to share the screen with a QR code that will take you to a survey. Please, if you haven't taken the survey, please take your time, take a few minutes and provide us with your feedback. As I said, all this feedback through the surveys, we will be presenting the data to council in July. Okay, we can wait if you have any further comments or questions for us. And again, please stay connected. As I said, we are doing this study after many, many years. And this is really going to help our local businesses. It's going to get our Foster City community, get some of the businesses they need. All your feedback is just going to help us get to that action plan that will support a Foster City community. Okay. If we do not have any further comments, if again, if you do not have any further comments, if you can just raise your hand and let us know that you do not. I just don't want to close the webinar if you still have anything to either ask or provide feedback on. Well, thank you, everyone. It was great talking to all of you, and I'm glad that you all shared your comments and questions with us. Thank you again for connecting with us, and we hope that you all take time to take the survey. Thank you. Have a great evening,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Thomas.